For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's 7th practice of spring camp. Now, when we last came to you on instant analysis, we said the defense dominated USC's situational scrimmage. Well, Shotgun, maybe the offense hurt us, not sure. But it was definitely the offense's best day today on Tuesday.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the offense really responded well, came back out. Now, they used some different looks, and I think that was a big part of what they were able to do. They used some different things that, had a lot of Clay McGuire touch to it, it felt like. So we saw some extra blockers. We've seen a lot of 2 tight end sets and 2 running back sets early this spring because of the lack of depth at the wide receiver position. They did get one guy back. Brew McCoy was back today, not in full pads yet, going through the acclimation period. But, getting him back is really important. A little bit of a scare, too, because Drake London limped off at one point, but then did come back. So there's a little bit of concern. Clay Helton was quick to go over and check on him, but all good there. But I thought the offense, they did some goal line situations, some third down situations, and the offense looked much better than it had in the past. And obviously when you throw some new stuff at the defense, I think that definitely helps.
Well, I was going to ask you is because the age-old question when you're watching spring camp in just 2 position groups or 2 offense, defense going against each other all the time, how can you evaluate if one is just familiar and that's why they're succeeding, or is it just because they are that good?
Yeah, particularly with, Graham Harrell's offense and the fact that you can install it in 3 practices as he, famously did a couple of years ago, then I think there's not a lot of variety, and it's about, being able to do the same things over and over. Well, I think today they fooled the defense a little bit with some of the new stuff that they threw at them. So that can be a difference maker. Obviously in a game you're going to do some of those type of things. So I think that played into why they were so good, and maybe that tells us that the defense wasn't so far ahead of the offense previously, but just seeing the same stuff over and over, they were kind of locked in on it. So it gives you a little bit more confidence in the offense than where we saw them on Saturday. Was really concerned about if they were taking some strides to improve. We saw a lot of positive developments today, I thought.
Mm-hmm. And just a reminder, we can't report any formations or anything like that, so we're not trying to hold back for you, but we just can't tell you. But overall, vaguely, Shotgun, what did you think about the new elements we saw?
I thought it was good, just because you're mixing it up and trying some different things out. And hey, will they use those things in the fall? Not a guarantee. Yep. But this is the time where you try some things out and say, let's see, does this work? Does this work with our personnel? You may want to try something, the same thing you've tried every spring you may even want to do, and try it with new personnel and say, hey, can this guy run that versus the guy we had last year? So I think just trying those things out and seeing how it went, and there were a lot of positive results today for them, so I think it's something they definitely will consider going with in the future.
Overall, I thought it was a really interesting practice. Just from the start, we saw the defensive coaches working with the offensive coaches working with the defense. Or sorry, I messed that up, but they flip-flopped is what I'm saying. And it was interesting. You got to see the big men, defensive linemen holding footballs, working with Mike Jinks. It was an interesting Freaky Friday moment.
Maybe a Twisted Tuesday, if you will. But yeah, I think that I don't know exactly the reason behind it, but I think one of the things is you want to mix things up to keep it fresh and keep it, especially this is a game week. This is the spring game will be on Saturday. So, you want to switch things up for them a little bit, keep them off guard a little bit, I think is what you want to do with 18 to 22-year-olds, so they don't know exactly what's coming. They mixed in a new drill in the middle of it, did some goal line stuff with a 4-on-4 drill, and I thought that really changed the momentum of practice. It's kind of flat and going about, and you just, okay, another spring practice. And then after they did that drill, everyone was hype. Everyone was going because it's a super competitive, individualistic type of drill where it's one-on-one blocking and a runner versus a secondary defender coming up to try to make a tackle at the goal line. Mm-hmm. And I think it really got things going. And then they followed that up with their goal line, their third down situations. So I thought it was a really well-run practice by the coaches. Now the Twisted Tuesday switch up, maybe a lot of times you're trying to work on, an overall skill set. But hey, because if Drake Jackson picks up a fumble, you want him to have that ball security when he takes off, because you expect that to happen at some point during the season. So I think maybe you're working on a little bit of that type of stuff and just doing some things. The offensive players are going to have to make a tackle every once in a while. There's going to be a fumble or an interception. So you need to practice those things a little bit. It's not something you need to do every day, obviously, but I think mixing it up, 1, you're keeping the players off balance, but 2, you're also working on some skills that they may actually need in a game.
Mm-hmm. You alluded to this, but after that Freaky Friday switch that we saw at the start of practice, it had the potential to go just a normal ho-hum kind of spring day practice, but that 4-on-4 drill got everyone fired up. The energy was off the charts, and then that led into the short yardage drills. The short yardage drills into practice ended with Chris Steele picking off Keaton Slovis, Drake Jackson doing a round off back handspring in full pads. I don't know how he does it, but he does. But the end of practice was definitely high energy.
Yeah, definitely. I think you saw that. And I've said this several times, and Keely's probably heard it a million times on the podcast and everything else, editing, but it's 18 to 22-year-olds. And the attention span of the current generation is not, what everyone wants to think that their generation was prior to it. So you got to switch things up. You got to change things. I've talked about this with a number of coaches. How every once in a while you just got to do something that's different, something that's a little bit fun. So that's maybe the twisting of the coaching staff. But by putting this drill in a situation right before you do the short yardage situation, I thought was really key, because you get the hype, you get the energy of the competition. And there was only 4 reps. They did offensive line versus defensive line. They did a tight ends versus secondary, second level defenders, and then they did receivers versus DBs. And give a credit, I thought the offensive line, this was their best day. They won both of their reps in that. The secondary defenders won the 2 other reps, so it was even there. But everyone's hyped up, and now you go into you lead into a drill that is building off of that too, which I thought which is interesting. So it's not like you're throwing a random drill in there just to change things, and then it has nothing to do with the next drill. It really builds on it. So I thought, like I said, I thought it was a really good practice plan and something different. And when Clay Helton took over, we got the same routine over and over and over. And they wanted that, but you got to eventually change things up. When things aren't going right, we've talked about it ad nauseum. When things aren't going right, you got to switch things up. But also in the spring, so that you're continuing to get better, switching something up like they did today. This is the middle week of the practice schedule. So I thought it was a great idea, and I really commend the coaching staff for what they did today. It really turned things around. They got all their individual skill work in early, and then they got the competitive periods, and they were very competitive periods.
Yeah. It also seems like that culture that they're talking about, how they want to instill that in spring, that was definitely a culture building performance or a portion of practice. But you talked about the offensive line. That's something that we've noted, left tackle watch. We've said it every incident analysis. And we said, or Clay Helton said, that they were going to do some more mixing and matching. We'll see some differences on the first team offensive line. But we didn't, Shotgun. What did you see today?
Nope, same groups as before. Now, I went and watched, in particular, the offensive linemen during some position drills and was trying to really pay attention. There was a water polo game on Saturday, so couldn't hear anything because there was pregame music going on. Today, I was able to hear a little bit more, kind of listening to Clay McGuire as he was coaching up some guys. They did some split group work with Toa Lomadan and Lenny Vandermeer working with one group and Clay working with the other group. And I thought Clay McGuire, a lot of attention to detail, a lot of coaching up on small things, which is exactly what you're looking for. That's how you get players better, is focusing on the small details, getting them better and better each day with each rep that they're taking. And I thought it was across the board. It wasn't just with, hey, these are the 5 starters, I'm just going to focus on them. No, he was working with everyone and using everyone as a teachable moment for other guys. So I really, I appreciated being able to watch a little bit closer than we normally would be in a spring practice, but kind of getting to see from afar how he was kind of taking his practice, his opportunity with those position drills, those one-on-one opportunities with the players. So some positive things to come out of that as well.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people want to know about USC's 2 freshman quarterbacks. Well, I thought Jackson Dart had a couple of special plays today. What did you see?
Yeah, definitely. He showed the unique playmaking ability that he has, where he can create on the run. He had a play where he's rolling out and throws the ball sidearm, a true dart, if you will, and a nice catch in the end zone. And Kalen Bullock was on it. This was in the goal line. Kalen Bullock was right on him. Good defense, better throw. And sometimes you can't defend a perfect throw, is the old adage. So that was one of those cases right there. A couple plays later, the read option, fans have been so mad that USC will never run with a quarterback, and we saw him take off and run. But not only run, but also when he fooled a defender, and this again goes back to, hey, the defense has seen the same thing over and over and over. If you do something different, you'll have a little bit of success. Beats the edge defender who crashes down, expecting the quarterback not to pull the ball out. Yeah. And then we see Jackson Dart pointing back at him as he crosses the goal line. A fun moment for him, and that's the competitive spirit. Now, someone has to tell him, this is the Pac-12. If you get in a game, do not do that. That will be a 15-yard penalty. Yeah. I don't know if the referees here even told him that, but some teammate needs to go, hey, don't do it in the game. Don't give anyone a high five during a game. Yeah. But no, it was a fun moment there, and that's the competition going back and forth. It's a fun competition. It's not bitter. It's not there's not the anger that you may see in some competitions when something like that happens. You got guys running back and forth, screaming and having fun. So it's the spring. That's when you're supposed to have that. Yeah. So I thought he had a really good day, especially in practice. Had a couple nice plays in that goal line situation.
Mm-hmm. It's a fun chippiness between the offense and defense. A good competitive rivalry. Now the next practice we will see will be USC spring game on Saturday. They announced on Monday that fans will be able to attend. It's a limited amount, I believe 5,000 fans, but it's the first time USC will be able to play in front of people that are not Arizona fans for the first time since 2019, so that will be big. But what are you expecting for Saturday?
It should be fun. I mean, the fact that they have built it as a spring showcase in their social media, but saying there's 4 quarters, going to be live contact, that tells me we're going to play a game-like situation. It said Team Cardinal versus Team Gold, game-like situation. All the indications point toward it being a game-like situation, which is something we've been clamoring for and hoping for a while, just to kind of see where this team is at. And, you know, in the spring, you really want that game atmosphere to kind of get it. And for the fans to be back, I think the players are going to give their all too. So I think this could actually be a really good opportunity to see some players and see how far along their development is, see who maybe is a little bit behind, who needs to, you know, do some work these last 2 weeks to really get caught up to some of their peers. And maybe we see some standout performances. If you remember a couple years ago, the spring showcase, the glorified practice that there was, but remember the big play from it, Drake Jackson with the interception on a low throw outside and taking it to the house for a pick 6. I think that's something we'll be looking to see if there's any standouts like that. Maybe one of those young safeties, maybe someone making a big play that you don't really expect, and you go, that's a guy I got to keep an eye on going into the fall. So I'm hoping for that. The baseball field's behind us, and there's some family and friends there today, so great to see some people being able to get back out to see some USC sporting events.
Ironically, Drake Jackson almost got a tip ball today, so that was a harken back to that spring game. Any final thoughts, Jochen, before we wrap it up?
No, I think it was a great practice for USC, and I think the offense really showed that they're further along than we anticipated, which is a very positive sign for them, because there were some big concerns for me at least where they were at the last week. And I think just mixing some things up, both practice-wise and play-wise, was a positive. Did want to note, I thought Chris Steele had a really good bounce-back practice. Jackson Dart, too, bounced back. He wasn't great the last practice. So a couple guys bouncing back and making some big-time plays. Jaden Williams, another interception. Kalen Bullock with a couple interceptions today. So some of those young guys making some strides, but Chris Steele ending the practice with it. The offense had his best day of practice and won most of the competition periods, but first team defense got the final win with Chris Steele making the interception. Very nice play, getting his hands on a receiver, not in a bad way, but then coming off to go get the ball and get his body down inbounds in the back of the end zone. So really nice play from him, and a really nice way for the defense to finish it off on a practice they didn't play. They didn't have the edge. They didn't have the edge. Yeah, that's a good way to point it.
Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for USC 7th practice of spring camp. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.